Hi, good afternoon, it's Gene from maverickstar Observatory. Quick look at the latest data in from one of our superstars, Scott in Arizona. Tucson, Arizona, I believe it's pronounced. I always get it wrong, so forgive me if I have pronounced it wrong. I think it's Tucson, it might be Tucson, but I'm sure someone in the comment section will let us know which one it is. So yeah, as you can see, one of the things that I'm surprised about the data that we've got, if we just quickly have a look at the latest data that Scott sent us from the 4th of the 10th 2020 to the 1st of the 11th 2020, we'll see that it's riding on the left hand column between 85 and 90, but if we go back in the history, we can see it drops to 85, then to 50, then to 37. So it does seem to be, for some reason, always on the increase. I'll have to raise the query with Scott over there and see what he can come back with as to regards to what's causing that. But in general, not a lot taking place in Arizona. As you can see, there is a little blip about a week into the collecting of the data, or 2 weeks into the collecting of the data. Small anomaly. I know by the time the audio and the video gets uploaded to YouTube, it will be out of sync with what I'm talking about, but you can see the cursor flicking around that part of the chart there, and it does appear to slightly increase towards the end of the readings. So the other thing is I updated on the website was the Earth Health at a glance. Let's just take a quick look at that. And I did recall one of the things noticeably that had changed within the last week of doing the data was the amount of CO2 parts per million. As you can see, it's at 510, which is quite an increase from last week at 412 parts per million. So I'm not sure whether it was down to the temperature and therefore the atmosphere where the meter was being held and collecting the data at that point contained more CO2 because of the lower temperatures. I know it was just getting over 2 degrees or something like that, but the Earth Health at a glance data is up on the website if you want to go and have a look at that. We've got a 5.2 South Sandwich Island region earthquake, 23 volcanoes in eruption. That's slightly up from 21 from last month. A couple of weeks ago. It's up by 3. One sunspot number, and I wanted to talk about that because I think that out of all this, the most important thing is with regards to the sunspots. So let's get into that. But as you can see, everything is pretty much normal. We have a reading on the muon detector of 567. I think that's up as well from last month. If we just go back, no, it's actually reduced. We had 594 last week, so slight decrease on the muons. Anyhow, let's have a look at why I feel it's important to have a look at the solar data. So there's one numbered region on the solar disk, 2781, and the big deal here is actually the position of where the sunspot is. As you can see, it's not equatorial, and I'm really surprised why NASA are keeping quiet about this, because you're not supposed to have equatorial sunspots during solar minimum, and we have came to the end of solar cycle 24. We're not in its maximum, and if we was in its maximum, then that sunspot would not be out of place. But right now it is definitely out of place. We're in solar minimum, and therefore if there's any sunspots on the disk whatsoever, they should be equatorial. So this is a big deal. There is something abnormal about our sun at the moment. Not only are we in a grand solar minimum where for the last 33 years sunspots have been dropping off at alarming numbers, and the heliosphere has been shrinking, allowing more cosmic rays in to our solar system. The sunspots are in the complete wrong place at the wrong time, and NASA are saying nothing. The solar physicists at NASA are saying absolutely nothing. Why is that? This is a big story, and yet, you know, everyone is keeping quiet about it. This is completely abnormal behaviour for our sun. Not only is it the fact that we've got low sunspot numbers, we've also got an unsure beginning to solar cycle 25, if solar cycle 25 is ever going to get started. But we've got, you know, sunspots forming around 30 degrees or 60 degrees instead of equatorial. So there's something not quite right there. As you can see, the image on the left showing the date July 19th 2000, you'll see that the sun is actually in solar maximum, and you can see what I'm talking about, where the position of the sunspots are. They're not so much equatorial, but they're more 30 degrees north, 30 degrees south. I know it's a bad representation of solar minimum, and it doesn't show any sunspots, the image on the right, but if we was to get sunspots forming, it would be equatorial. So there is, like I say, some really strange behaviour taking place with our sun right now, and you know, it is important that we understand what that is and what the cause is. And like I say, right at the moment, NASA are saying nothing about it, and I haven't heard anyone else on YouTube or any other website talk about this fact. Yet I think it's you know, a question that needs to be answered, or at least looked into. I mean, not only does this chart show that over the last 3 solar cycles of 33 years the sunspot numbers dwindling away, but with the 2 images I just showed you from July 2000, you can see at solar cycle 23 it was almost in maximum, and you can see from the end of solar cycle 24 2020 we're at the bottom of the cycle, and therefore at solar minimum, and we should have, if anything, sunspots equatorial. There's a good video on the Learning Centre on our website, poleshiftnews.com, if you want to go and have a look at that, because it's made by NASA and it's talking about where the sunspots are supposed to be at specific times. It's well worth a look, and it reinforces the fact of what, you know, the point I've drawn out in this video for you guys is that there is something definitely abnormal about the sun's activity, not just in the fact that we're experiencing a lot lower sunspots for this point in time. We haven't really seen the beginning of solar cycle 25 kick off yet, but more to the point, this video on the Learning Centre was created and published by NASA themselves. So the point I'm raising about where the sunspot is a valid point. NASA haven't said anything about it up to my knowledge, or at this point in time. So is there more to it than what we are being led to believe? That's the question. And what does it mean if we don't get equatorial sunspots during solar minimum? Could the sun be gearing up for something bigger? And we don't know really what was the cause of the Carrington event. It sort of like came out of the blue. I think it was around 1858 or 1860, I think it was, the Carrington event. That's where we had a massive X-class flare leave the sun and made its way to the Earth. And at that time, the only high-tech electrical equipment that we had was telegraphs. It just burnt the telegraphs out. This day and age, if we get a coronal mass ejection come off the sun, a moderate X flare, it could, cripple the electronic infrastructure on this planet. And not just that, we're talking about all the satellites that we heavily rely on today as well. And the reason for that would be a weakened magnetosphere offering less protection against CMEs as well as cosmic radiation, and a weakened heliosphere. So, we really are in some strange times at the moment, and the signs are there. You've just got to know what you're looking for. I'm going to end the video here. I just want to say a quick thanks to those people that have been supporting our observatory and stepping up to the line, keeping us going. It is one of the toughest times for us, and on the back of COVID-19, well, as you can imagine, it makes it even harder to raise some revenue for our observatory. So, the links are down there, guys. All I can say is we're in the beginning of a month. and you know, funds are very low, and we need to keep those funds coming in order for us to keep doing what we do. If it weren't for this observatory, and you know, for those few people that come forward with some donations for it, you know, you wouldn't be told about, you know, the positions of the sunspots, the latest position of the magnetic North Pole, and all the current information which we now provide on a weekly and daily basis. So, you know, the links are down there, and you know, I really do encourage people to, you know, help us out at a time where it's much needed. So the only other thing to say, guys, is you enjoy yourselves, look after your loved ones, and I'll be back perhaps tomorrow with another update, and I'll say what I usually do. You take care, as always. Bye for now.